The twin assassinations of Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy signaled this moment in American history where it seemed like violence was getting the upper hand. Martin Luther King wasn't an electoral candidate, but he symbolized change. He was the leadership for change, and he was removed from the scene brutally. Robert Kennedy, who may not have won the election, but he was an option for people, and he expressed people's desires for a different America, he was removed brutally from the scene. When political candidates are killed, this is a dagger to the heart of the entire country, because it means that you're not going to be allowed to express your desire, your needs, your wants through the ballot box. And the sense that violence was taking political options away from you is very unsettling.
There's a whole series of social upheavals that are happening during this period. One of them being driven by the history of racial segregation and racial discrimination and racial violence. One being driven by a sense that the United States is fighting in a moral war in Southeast Asia. The assassination of Martin Luther King unleashes this wave of urban unrest. And the riots themselves have a complicated legacy. There's an argument to be made that this was a form of protest. This was a form of protest in a context in which there were very few avenues to actually effectively make change. This is a context in which the police often operated with impunity and year after year after year beat or even murdered African American people with no justice.
There was so much change, especially in urban areas, that some Americans were not certain that they were as safe as they had been a few years earlier. Now, some of this was based on ignorance and bigotry, but some of this was also based on higher crime rates in urban areas. This is the reason why Richard Nixon made law and order one of his main promises. It was that he knew that the American people felt unsettled.
This is really the beginning of what's going to be a long period of developing policing infrastructures and carceral infrastructures that have resulted over the last 50 years in the production of the world's single largest prison complex. We are in some ways the inheritors of that social policy history, and now trying to wrestle with the failure of the experiment with mass incarceration and what it has wrought, especially for the communities that have been most impacted by it.
In 1968, younger people were redefining what it was to be American. They were redefining the relationship between the state and the individual. When can you say no? When should you say no to your own government? What is civil disobedience? Now there had been some of it before. After all, in the African American civil rights movement, that's at the heart of it in the 1950s. But you see more of it in 1968. It's not just African Americans who are questioning this relationship to government. It's others in American society. And it's all happening at the same time. Some Americans are deeply uncomfortable with this. And that discomfort doesn't go away. They get older, but the discomfort doesn't go away. Baby boomers still have a lot of power. And baby boomers were absolutely shaped by 68. 68, in a sense, is their revolution, whether you're on the left or the right. We are still witnessing and being affected by the psychodrama of the boomers' debates amongst themselves. They are still dealing with 68.